And welcome, folks, to another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with the man they call Gorgeous, Al Borges. We are back. Unfortunately, we are here doing something, talking about something we haven't talked about for quite some time. A regular season loss. Been a few years since we talked about a regular season loss on this show, but we're here. Al Borges, rain or shine, we are here for the people, right? This
For
is
the
what
people,
we
Sam. Then I'm not near as gorgeous when we lose, Sam.
really. That's how it works.
Yeah, my stock drops a little bit when we lose, but that's okay. We'll get back.
Yeah. So we are here to do what we always do. We break it down: the good, the bad, and the ugly. We also do the film studies. So if you want to see the detailed breakdown, the analysis of the X's and the O's, that is available to you. The film studies are now available exclusively on the Autograph app, the film study. All right. The Autograph app is available for, by the way, the Autograph app is Tom Brady's baby. See, he rescued the Autograph app, the film studies, because Gorgeous. I mean, it's hard work being as gorgeous as Al, right? I mean, it's like, hey, Sam, man, I can't just keep being gorgeous for free. Can't keep being gorgeous for free. I get it. I understand.
I'm not Tom Brady. I can't be gorgeous for free.
I understand, Al Borges. I get it. So Tom Brady said, Al, I won't make you be gorgeous for free anymore. Yeah, I love the people, but we're gonna compensate Al, and we're gonna pay him for being gorgeous, right? And we're gonna provide you a home for the film studies. They are available on the Autograph app. The Autograph app is free, and so you get perks beyond the film study, right? It's available there. All you got to do is download it. It is available on Android and iOS. Okay, so you can get it on your phone, on your iPad, Android or your iPhone. It's available there. And of course, all your other fan offerings, so your favorite blogs, your favorite podcasts, other videos you watch in addition to the film studies available there too. And then as you do these things, as you consume these fan offerings, you accrue points, and then you can redeem these points for rewards. That is this great idea that Tom Brady and his team at Autograph came up with. Doesn't get any better than that, folks. So you get rewarded for being a fan. This is something that a Michigan guy would come up with. Reward you for your loyalty for being a fan. So how do you get it? Very simple, very easy for you to do. All you got to do is download it. I'm going to make that be a simple and easy process for you. I'm going to put the QR code on the screen for you right now. You see it right there. It's gone. Download it. Just scan that QR code. See that right there? Very simple, folks. Very, very simple for you to scan the QR code. See? For those of you who are, challenged, we got some technologically challenged people out there don't want to scan a QR code. I get it. It can be a little tough. It's understandable, right? Well, we can always go to a link, right? We make it easy in that way as well. So do this. Go to link.ag.fan/Sam Webb. Link.ag.fan/Sam Webb, and you can get it that way. See how simple that is for the people? Okay, so get the Autograph app. You can get the film studies that way, and all the things that we talk about here in the breakdown, you can actually see the detailed analysis in the film study that way. And by the way, we are still going to be breaking down the Buckeyes in the bye weeks. So if you want to help us break down the Buckeyes, that detailed reconnaissance, better than old Connor Stallions, who's coaching over in Mumford. Shout out to Will McMichael, by the way. Feel better, Will. Feel better. They said Will had a minor stroke. I want Will to feel better over there. We do it better than Connor. Buckeye said he had him scouted so well, he knew the stuff they were going to do before they even put it on tape. Well, we got him scouted even better than that, right? So you want to see us break down the Buckeyes in the bye week? Help us with the Buckeye breakdown. We are funding the Buckeye film studies. We're putting that fund in the comments and in the description. So help us with the Buckeye Film Study Fund in the comments and in the description. Help us with that. All right. So, Al, this was a tough one. All right. This was a tough one. This was a tough game for the Wolverines. 31-12.
31-12, yeah.
31-12 is that's a beat down no matter which way you slice it. This was a offensive nightmare for the Maize and Blue because they couldn't manage much of anything in the grand scheme of things. I said if they could not run the ball, this was going to be an exercise in futility. And Al Borges, they could not run the ball in this game consistently. And to me, that's going to be their undoing this year if they can't figure that out.
No question. And this week, as much as any week of people that watch this show, they need to watch the film study because Sam and I did a really nice job, I think, of detailing some of these issues, okay? Really showing you where the breakdowns are and occasionally when they did it right. So I think this is a great case for watching the film study. They need to find a way, Sam, to jumpstart this run game because so much of what they do or what they want to do starts with the idea that they can effectively run the football. And so many things, they're not on the same page sometimes in terms of how they're blocking, even when they've got the right targets. Some of the fundamental issues are still coming up. Some that came up even in the Fresno State game that are preventing them from playing in good down and distances. And that in turn, it's what's happening is it's putting too much pressure on the quarterback. And when you put too much pressure on the quarterback, you know what happens, Sam? The thing that didn't happen or hasn't happened for a couple years, turnovers. You can't turn the ball over and be inefficient because now you're giving the other team more opportunities and losing an opportunity of your own. So they got to get in some way, shape, or form to get their run game jump started so that everything else starts to go. Now, the other thing, and I mentioned it last week, is the lack of explosive plays. Because no team or very few teams could take the ball down the field on 10 and 15 play drives, you have to have the ability to cut the throat of your opponent. There's just no explosive plays, whether it be with the running game or with the passing game. And I think part of that is because they need a threat on the flank. They need somebody that can go get the ball and blow the top off the coverage and put the fear of the good Lord in the defense to know that they will take those shots. There's an inconsistency up front, like I said, with regard to manage it or running their offense. They're running basically the same plays they've run for the last few years: duo plays, counter plays, zone plays. They just can't rely on them anymore. Where before, they may have a 2-yard gain, but it was always followed by a 6-yard gain and eventually maybe even an explosive run. So they just can't rely on those, and that's what's kind of really hurting them. The thing I think that is a little even more disheartening, I don't want to paint too ugly a picture here, but 23 times on first and second down, Texas was in split safety defense with no spin down on the box, which means the box was not loaded. They've had enough bodies to cap all the Texas defenders and still only averaged about around little under 4 yards of carry. Now, when the box isn't loaded, you got to be taking bigger bites. Yeah. Now, those 4-yard gains come when the box is more loaded, but they did not. I had them loading the box 10 or 11 times. That's just not very many times. Now, understand this. After the 43rd play of the game, it was all third down mentality for Texas and all third down mentality for Michigan because they were behind. It became a passing circus, okay? So you don't really count those because those weren't really game planned with the game still in the balance, okay? But throwing 34 drop back passes and throwing 38 called passes. Now, these may not be statistically the same, but I'm talking about passes that were called by the coach. there were 38 called, 34 within the pocket with no play pass or anything is a recipe for disaster. That just isn't, that's going to lead to something bad at the end, because now you are no longer playing your game. You're playing their game. They can put in their third down defense, mix up all their exotic blitzes. Before you know it, the quarterback, even if he's not sacked, sacks can be a little overrated. There's a lot of pressure on the quarterback. He's releasing the ball too soon. Again, could lead to turnovers and all that. So I think that's big. So I think that's where they are, and I think they know where they are. I'm not saying anything that they don't already, or telling you anything that they don't already know. But I think some of the myths that I hear out there that after studying the tape that don't hold after watching the schemes again, with all 22, watching end zone and wide angle, that everybody was up in there like on the third down and 3 play. They were all up. That was not the case at all. They were in a split safety defense. The picture was perfect to run the play. They just didn't execute it. So all those things right now is where they are. Okay. And it's not a good place to be, but the good news is they've only played 2 games. They got a lot of time to improve and do what they need to do. This week they're going to play a team that's a pretty good team, but it's a team they match up very well with. So some of these things can be cured. So it's not time to push the panic button, but it is time to find some answers. Okay. It is time to find some answers. And I'm sure that they're brainstorming as we speak to do just that.
Yeah. There are some, you're right, not time to panic. Sherrone, I thought, was in his press conference. He said as much. He said, not time to panic, but there is a sense of urgency. I think that there are some realizations. Realization, I think, is a good word. I think that the notion that they can have, this is me. I'm not speaking for them. I think there was a feeling that they could have a line that rivaled 2021. I think there's a realization, at least to me, that's not a realistic expectation. You can certainly have that as a goal. That can be an aspiration, but an expectation, Al, based on what we've seen through 2 games, I don't think that's realistic.
No.
When
Sam, they're trying to replace a Remington center from 2 years ago, and they did with Drake, right? Drake came in, had played a lot at Stanford, played solid, played very well, and then they're trying to put in a center, and it isn't going to be that good yet. Now, maybe someday. But now, yeah, that's a big hole because he makes all the calls.
Well, I
mean, on the same page.
In 21, it wasn't a Remington guy. It was Bastardi.
No, but he was surrounded by some good players. So, and was smart and played enough to understand the calls and all that. So, but it is there from a recent perspective, it's a bit of a drop off. Okay.
Yeah, man. That was, me, Al. I mean, I don't give people. I give people my takes, but I don't give them the raw and unfiltered. Al's like, Sam, don't slit your wrist. Don't slit your wrist, Sam.
I keep all sharp objects away from you for a couple of days, Sam. Had people checking on you constantly. I think doing
that light box stat is sobering.
Yeah, it is sobering. That's
a sobering stat. Yeah. To have a light box stat 23 times.
Right.
And to be less than 4 yards a carry for Michigan.
Yeah, that's not a good number.
Slaughtering those defenses on the ground. Yeah. Slaughtering. I mean, that's like seeing a too high defense. Teams shouldn't be so emboldened.
Right. That was suicide in the past. That was suicide. That was
so emboldened to step up to a Michigan offense with 2 high safeties that routinely. Mm-hmm. That's almost a sign of disrespect, right? And they did it consistently.
Yeah, they believed. The defense coordinator at Texas was my graduate assistant when I was at Boise, so I know him pretty well. And he is a D-line guy, big time. He played it himself. And he believed, I'm sure, that they could play up front with their front 7 and play those blocks. without safeties having to constantly fill to force guys to play one gap. They could play two gaps. I'm sure of it because the schemes are telling me that. So
So I mean, the case in point is the call. Like we got to knock out of the box right away and watch the film study. All right, folks. Look, the autograph app is featured. Somebody went on the YouTube page. It was like, oh, you're putting the film studies behind the paywall. The film studies are not behind the paywall. The autograph app is free. It's free. Okay. Tom Brady and his crew are paying Al Borges and Vance Bedford. All right. So now what you were getting for free, you can still get for free, courtesy of TB12. How about that? How about that? All right. So what you will see when you watch these film studies is the misconception about that QB power. So there's this notion that when Alex Orji went in the game on that 3rd and 3, that, oh, you telegraphed this play. You telegraphed this play. This is a horrible play call, right? You told him exactly what you're going to do, and you were running into this loaded box. That's not true. This is a false narrative because Al Borges, the tape shows it was a light box. It was a light box.
Yeah, surprisingly, I think they thought maybe he was going to throw Orji. Maybe Orji was going to throw. I don't know. I'm guessing.
But, or they just thought they guarded against him. They just thought, well, even we can guard against him throwing because we can cover him with 7 and
play the blocks, right? Exactly. We feel like we can play the blocks without slamming safeties into the box.
We don't need a safety,
right,
in the box to stop Michigan.
Yeah, they were very much an Iowa mentality. Iowa does the same thing. They'll play with split safeties, their quarter, half defense, and then play, depend on playing the blocks up front without safeties having to constantly come down and forcing them to play one gap. They think they can two gap, and in this game, Texas did.
Right. So, but on this particular play, they keep 2 high safeties. Michigan, they widen the corner. So they take the corner out of the play by motioning Donovan. So he takes the corner out of the play. Every defender is capped, is accounted for.
Yes.
So your pulling guard just has to clear the tackle and pull up in the hole and take care of the linebacker. And when Alex takes the ball and follows his blocker, he's going to get 3 yards, and who knows how many more. Who knows how many more? But instead of going around the tackle, the pulling guard attempts to go up inside the tackle. I asked Al, I said, Al, explain to me what he might be thinking on this play. I don't. So Al gave me a theory, but it was whatever it was the wrong thinking, because it blew up the play. It left open a hole for what wound up being a Longhorn team meeting in the backfield. So it makes you think this was a play that was telegraphed, that they ran into a loaded box. The play was not telegraphed. It was not a loaded box. This was a execution error, a massive execution error. And this was not a play that called for above and beyond. This wasn't asking for execution that was above and beyond. Some plays, like when you're asking your offense to block a loaded box, that's like, okay, we need exceptional execution. This wasn't an exceptional execution play, Al.
No, simple power play.
Yeah, this is a simple power play.
Now, let me say this, Sam. I want to explain a little bit what could have happened, because I've called in so many of these power plays. I've just about seen every scenario you can imagine. When the guard pulls, he's instructed, if something shakes loose inside, to block color. If there's a penetrator or something, somebody missed a block, and that may have been what he was thinking. But in this case, the tray block, which is the double team with the tight end and the left tackle, was clean. It was good. But I for some reason, I don't know if he saw a ghost or what, but he bumped into him. And as he bumped into him, the linebacker tight. He fell off a little bit and got a little piece of him. But by that time, they had kicked the play back into the back to the right, and all those guys were getting back blocked, and it looked like they had a million guys on the play, which they didn't. Had the play hit on track, which it should have hit, he'd have gone through clean. But when it got kicked back, it looked like, oh, what a horrible call. There's a million guys. That was not the case at all. And I encourage people to watch the film study so they better understand that.
Yeah. So here's the deal. When I talk about this, that was a situation where they destroyed Michigan, Alex Orji in the game with a light box. So in the next breath, I say Michigan has to lean into figuring out they got to lean into running the football more. Like whatever they do, their goal has to be, we got to figure out the personnel grouping, the strategy, the combination therein that gets us running the football better. That's the main objective. The pieces of the puzzle that get us running better. And it's like, wait a minute. So, and I say, my opinion is some more Alex Orji in the mix. Now, I'm going to see some people in the chat to say that's counterintuitive. They just blew Michigan up with a light box. That makes no sense. You're going to put him in the game, and they're going to say, well, he can't even throw. He can't throw the ball, and they're stopping him with a light box. Hey, we might see some loaded boxes now too. That's going to slow him down even more. Why does that make sense, Al Borges? To try to play him some more, to maybe try to enhance the running game that they can't even run when there are light boxes in the game. Why does that make sense, Al Borges? Does that make sense to you as a play caller?
Yeah, and if he's in the game, now remember, first I'm going to start with this. I don't care who's in the game. If you don't block them, you got no chance. Okay, period. Let's be clear on that. If the execution doesn't get the plays started so that good athletes can work in the open field, forget about it. I know I worked with Bob Toledo at UCLA, and we'd watch the tape, and he says, God, it's perfect. We got it. It looks so juicy. And Bob would always say, yep, still got to block them. So that one play, and then block them. But when you put Orji in the game, they have to play more dimensions of your run game. Okay, this is what the upside of Alex Orji is. They have to play the pull plays. Anytime he runs a zone, he runs a bluff, he runs a duo, he runs a pin and pull or a horn type play, reads, they always have to play the possibility that he could pull the ball out, which separates defenders. Hence the spread offense. Okay, that's kind of where that term came from. Separating defenders and pulling them away from the box so there's less bodies to block. Okay, less margin for error. Number two, it allows you to handle loaded box with +1 runs. Now, what's a +1 run? Because I probably use that term, some guys don't. It's when the quarterback is called to run the football. It's not a read where he can pull it and do all that. He's called to run the football on some type of run that allows your running back to block that extra player. Okay? Isolation plays, power plays, counter plays, quarterback draws, pin and pulls. All those are +1 runs where you can ensure that the quarterback's going to get the ball. You're going to carry the ball, unlike the zone reads. Okay, so that gives you that, and then you can also stick in some option plays, some literal run down the line, simple option plays where it gives you a chance for it forces them to play the quarterback and play the pitch man without going into all the triple option, all that stuff. That's a whole different offense. But you can keep a simple speed option play offense. Also, another way is to add some RPOs, okay? Something that is just another way to compensate for that loaded box, whether the bubbles or spots or slants or sit flats or whatever. Plays where you can pull the ball out when they come running up to stop Alex and throw the ball behind him, okay? But the thing I'm going to say is if Alex doesn't throw the ball as well, but adds that run dimension, maybe, just maybe, and I'm not sure, this may or may not be true, you could tolerate a few bad throws. if he could create some plays within the offense that compensate for inefficiency passing. So, and understand that sometimes those plays are plays like a drop back pass where nobody's open, and he, like JJ used to do, like he just runs around, raises hell. Either he runs around and takes off, he runs around, buys a little time, makes a throw down the field, or just structurally makes a throw. Fake it, boom, pull it out, throw it, and complete it. So there are things that you don't draw on the board that a player like that will give you. Now, as a coach, you hate counting on some of that sometimes, particularly in light of the fact that for the last 3 years, you really haven't had to do a lot of that. JJ did it within himself, but you didn't have to design a ton of plays where JJ was called to run the ball or was called to pull the ball. He had it, they did it, but it wasn't a huge part of their offense. They've never been a big RPO team. But this is a different group. And like I said, they have to jumpstart their offense. They got to find a way to get that running game going so everything else goes.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I am. I feel like I feel like that they have a better chance of being a competent. They have a better chance of being an average running team than they do being an average passing team. I'm not saying they have no chance. I'm not giving up on them being an average passing team. I'm not saying that they can't, but I'm playing the averages here. I'm playing the odds here. What do I think as I'm looking at the game against Texas, when Texas knew they were going to run and Texas knew they were going to pass, whether they have more success doing. Texas knew they were going to pass. They couldn't block these two. It was like they could block these two.
No, well, like I said, after the 43rd play, forget about it.
Yeah,
now
Texas knew they were going to run. They had some. They were able to shake some things when Texas knew they were going to run. They were able to shake some things, and it wasn't just the line. So that's the other thing. I think the biggest issue is the line, but the line isn't the only issue.
No, and we show that in the film study. Everybody has a stake in this thing. It's usually when things aren't working the way you want, it's a collective effort. People want to tend to point the finger, particularly the line. They take the biggest hit. And in a lot of instances, it's an issue.
I think they should.
Always a line.
Line should take the biggest hit.
Yeah,
I think they should, but they're not.
Just to understand, a lot of things go into success and a lot of things go into failure. So generally, and I heard Bill Parcells say that this years ago, he said, when you're not doing well, it's never one thing. You want to think it is, point to that, fix it, and everything's okay. It's never one thing.
Yeah.
When things aren't hitting, it's always a collective effort by at one time or another, somebody different is screwing it up.
Yeah. So, but assuming that the line improves, and I expect them to, I expect the line gets better. Okay, now if you can get the line to the point of being an average group, how do you accentuate that? How do you help them out? What's going to help them out the most? I mean, I think you can have a quarterback that can accentuate that. You got some tailbacks that can accentuate that. They got to do their part. I mean, the tailbacks left some yards on the field in this game. I think Donovan would tell you, he's like, man, I left some plays on the field. Donovan would tell you that. He's like, now he would say, first he would say, hey, man, I need some more touches. Not touches and carries are different things, right? I think the most explosive player on a team that is devoid of explosive players, to me, needs more touches. All right? He's got to get 15 touches a game because you don't have players on your team who can do what he can do. That being said, with those touches, hey man, he's got to be efficient. Like when you get those touches, you got to maximize those touches. And he didn't maximize all his touches.
No, so, and the thing about him, Sam, is
so this is a twofold discussion. If it's Donovan Edwards, it's like Donovan, he's like, coach, give me more touches. I'm your most explosive player.
That's key right there. That's key because they're not getting explosives. And if he comes out of the game, you take out one possibility of an explosive. Even though there may be some runs you don't like as much in the interim, You got to keep him around because he's the one guy that can create it. You know it, and he has a history of it.
So,
So
so
they got to
let's
find ways to get him explored.
let's role play because you've been a coach. So I know Donovan. So I'm gonna pretend to be Donovan. All right, and you coach me. You coach me, Al. Just like you would coach playing. Don't take it easy on me. You tell me exactly what you would tell me. Okay, coach. Hey man. Hey, I'm a ball player, coach. You see what I can do? You seen what I can do. I gotta have more touches. You know I can make it happen. Give me the ball. I need the ball 15 to 20 times a game. Hand it to me, throw it to me. Give me the ball.
Well, we're going to do our damnedest to get that done because we know you're capable of that, but you better take advantage of those opportunities so I can justify continuing to call your number. It's that simple. I have no problem with seeing to it that you touch the ball more because we know what you're capable of. But at this point, that hasn't shown. It's time for it to show. So as you get your touches, we are going to monitor how they go. And as you get your touch and you succeed, we will find more ways to get you the ball. But
Okay,
when we're
so
down by a lot of points late in the game, there's going to be a lot of passes thrown, and you're going to lose some touches. So when you get your opportunity, take advantage of that opportunity and seize the moment.
okay, so wait, coach. So you told me, you were telling me, all right, you don't want me bouncing all these plays. Remember you told me that? That was one of the
I
things
did,
last year.
and
You
I'm
said,
still telling you that.
all right, but so I'm not bouncing all these plays anymore. So I mean, what is it? What do you want me to do?
You run the play within the structure of play. Some plays do get bounced. Some plays don't get bounced. If you've aiming points a certain spot, run to that aiming point, give the play a chance, and then be an athlete once you get there. There's no bouncing all the time or running inside all the time. That's not the way the running game works. Crevices in the defense develop differently every time you touch the ball. Sometimes they're right on track. Sometimes they're cutbacks. Sometimes they're spill plays with bounces. It can be different. Read what you see, respond to the defense, and do your thing.
Yeah, so that's what I see. I see a dude who is determined. I'm gonna run this ball. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna run this ball up in there, coach.
Let me tell you something about football, Sam. Any preconceived notions usually get you in trouble.
Uh,
For the quarterback, for the running back, blah, blah, blah. What you got to do is run the play within the structure of the scheme, react to the scenario, and let your instincts take over. But when you start deciding, I got to run here, and then all of a sudden that doesn't develop, you get yourself in all kinds of trouble.
yeah, yeah. But they gotta figure out. They got a scheme or a plan. 15 touches game for him because
So
you
I
know.
think I think you got it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you got it. But the problem is you ain't getting 15 touches if after the 43rd play you're losing so bad you got to throw a million passes.
right.
So forget about that. But
But
if they play a game that's within, still stays in balance from wire to wire, he should be probably getting that many touches or more.
so before we get to your grades, Al, let's talk about Davis Warren because there's a heavy burden on him in the past. I think there's more pressure on Davis Warren than was on Cade McNamara. I wrote this. There's more pressure on him than was on Cade McNamara. More pressure on him than was on JJ McCarthy to be a playmaker because uh, the line in front of him and the playmaking talent around him, neither is as developed. And so you're asking him to compensate for more.
Too much.
You're
Too much.
calling the same plays and asking, so which is essentially asking him to be more of a playmaker.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a tall order. Yeah. No
Yeah,
question.
that's a very, very tall order. So I think under the circumstances, he's done a solid job. And yet, as you break down his play, I think that there is a disparity between as I listen to your analysis and I listen to Devin's analysis, and then, you see some of the PFF stats, and then I saw, some of the fans, they were like, hey, he was 4 for 5 on plays of 20 yards or more. And then I look at your stats and your analysis, and it's like totally different.
Well,
so,
here's
so,
the
so
deal, Sam.
reconcile for me.
Yeah, he made some nice plays in the game, and out in the film study, again, go back to the film, you'll see him. He made some nice plays. So one play at the end, holy smoke, he hits a crash route uh, with a sting blitz guy coming free through the middle, and he made a hell of a play. But Sam, the quarterback is always going to be judged on one thing. Understand? How many points he puts on the board. Okay, understand? If he don't put a lot of points on the board, I don't care what his completion percentage is, how many balls were thrown down the field, all that stuff is hogwash. If he can put 30 plus points on the board every week, he's going to be judged accordingly. Some quarterbacks have thrown low percentage. Some quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame have more interceptions than they do touchdowns, but they could put points on the board. They were great leaders. They were good in the clutch. So at this point, not many points are going up on the board, and that's how you're going to be judged. So if you want to keep your job, all the stuff in between's nice, but that ball better cross the goal line a hell of a lot more than it's been, or you're not going to be the quarterback very long. Period. That's the hard and fast way you're judged. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
So what do you see for instance, I mean the interceptions. What did you see on the interceptions, and you know and let's kind of segue into the grade, starting with the grade for the quarterback.
Okay, the quarterback was a C at best. Okay, he did some nice things, but again, you're not scoring any points. I'm not giving you better than that. He on the first interception, he threw the ball high into the inside. The guy shook loose and pass rush from the left side, got underneath, kind of got in his face, and he had to kind of redirect his arm, and the ball went high and inside. It was very tough because the coverage was tight, and it popped up in the air, but I don't think it was a very good throw. There's reasons it wasn't a good throw, but I don't. An interception's an interception, right? I mean, the result is the result. Okay, so I think that was partly pressure, but it wasn't inaccurate. It wasn't an accurate throw. The second one, I believe, was a misread between him and Loveland. They were in a cover four. They were running four verticals. Loveland took off, tried to run past the safety, and I think, and I don't know this, you'd have to ask him for sure, but I think Davis probably thought he was going to bend inside under the safety, and he threw the ball, assuming that he's got to see that happen, anticipate it, but see that happen and make the throw rather than guess he's going to do it. You know what I mean? And as it turns out, he threw the ball right to the quarters coverage safety. So I think there was a miscommunication there. I think there was an errant throw / protection problem on the first one.
All right, so you C for quarterback. Let's move on to the rest of your grades. If you have questions for Al, start putting them in the chat now so we can get to your questions in the Q&A segment.
Yeah, the wide receivers, again, they're not dropping balls. I mean, but they're just not a factor. And I can't give them any bit better than a C until somebody does something to warrant it, okay? They did a nice job of catching a couple shallow crosses and running with them as such, but they're a C at best until somebody does something prolific, something to put some points on the board. The offensive line did not have a very good game, and I'd give them a D, and I don't give them any Ds, and I basically don't give any Fs if guys are giving the best effort. But there were many, many minuses. Link was put in a bad situation at the end when it became a passing circus, and his grade went way down because Texas was rushing the quarterback indiscriminately. But the overall group was a D at best, and I think that's probably where they got to make the biggest leap. The tight ends were nothing better than a C. There were still some instances where guys are still got to get their fundamentals down when they're blocking big bodies, okay? I thought Bredesen played pretty good. Of all of them, he probably played the best. What's left? The running backs. Again, I think I'd give them a C because I think there's no big plays being made even when there are opportunities, and there were some missed opportunities when deciding where to run the football. So, there's just a couple of plays where they are blocked and we're not getting a big yield on the play. And that's not why we have you at running back. We have you at running back so that if you can get into one-on-one situations, you can beat those guys. And I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's Texas or Fresno State. You have to win those opportunities or we got the wrong guy carrying the ball.
Yeah, there were, as you'll see in the film study, there were a couple of times, and we've shown the past 2 weeks, and with both backs, where there were both main backs, where there were plays where they got 5 yards, 5 or 6 yards, 5 to 10 yards, where maybe they could have gotten 30, right? Or
Mhm.
there were times where they were one on one with a safety, where they got to break a tackle, right?
Mhm.
Both your main tailback. So those are instances where you need your back to win. You need
Correct.
your back to read in one instance and win in another. To make the point that it's not always the line. It's
No, it's not.
mostly, I think it's mostly the line, but it's not always the line, Al. And I think it's important that we emphasize that point, right?
I think that's pretty accurate. But again, I think it's a collective effort. And sometimes, Sam, the line won't block them a couple times, and the back will break one for a 40 or 50-yard gain. And in the statistics, you'll show up with 150 yards rushing, and you won't say, well, it was the line played really, really good. So it's just there's ways to cover it. There's ways to make it look better than it is. But I just watch it and assess it as it happens as an analyst and nothing else. I don't have any dog in the hunt other than the fact that I like watching good execution. And I know what bad execution looks like because I've coached some bad execution too. I'm not speaking out of school on that, but that's what you're dealing with. Um, One thing to understand is when you run 20 plays in the first half,
Mhm.
20 plays is what they ran. All right. How many opportunities are there going to be for the backs to go? You know, and that's there's a reason they only ran 20 plays because the execution wasn't where it should have been. But 20 plays are not going to get you the numbers you want. Now we've played 2 games, we haven't had 300 total yards yet. So again, it's efficiency, it's technique and fundamentals, it's decision making, it's so many things.
Mhm. All right, folks, if you have questions for Gorgeous Al Borges, put them in the chat right now and we will start knocking them down. I'm actually going back to the early part of the session to try to grab some of the early ones in case I missed some of your early comments, but I'll start grabbing some now to put them on the screen. So we'll get Brian Muleman on right now with the very first one. And this question is, Al, what do you suggest to get the running game on track and to get Warren passing better? What would you do, Al Borges?
Well, I don't know if they both go in hand. I think the running game, his best shot at getting on track is to put a running quarterback in the game. I think that's and because what's happened at this point is they've run the packages that they've run in the past. Now I haven't seen much of the jumbo package and all that yet, but there are really only 43 plays in the game that were game plan plays. After that, it was all passes. But you could just keep working your butt off and do what you do and hope it gets better, which I'm not sure is the answer. Or you can insert or use Orji more to spread the defense out and do some of the things that I talked about him doing. But other than that, I'm not sure what will get the running game better. You can just assume it's going to get better, and it might, and keep doing the same thing you're doing. It might, but if it doesn't, and you get more of the same, you got to start thinking about making a major change, whether you like it or not. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's pretty much the way I see it.
All right. Kevin Page. Al, could they use Donald more on the perimeter, zone, stretch, pin and pull, screen game?
Yeah, I think so, and I think you'll see that. I think you'll see that because you've seen it over the years, right? I mean, using him on the flank, motioning him out of the backfield, throwing in balls down the wheel routes, seam routes, then some underneath stuff with some Texas little duck under routes under the linebackers. They've done all that with Donovan over the years. We broke it down and drawn it up. So I think you're going to see more of that. And if with Davis as the quarterback, that's all good stuff. That could help a little bit. And if you start hitting some of those things, it may help to open up your run game.
Here's one from Munir. At this point, are the issues correctable, or it is what it is? I mean, I guess you would kind of have to parse the issues.
No,
Uh,
I always want to think it's correctable. What it is not an answer. Okay, that's a bad answer. Anybody ever says that it is what it is, it might even be true, but you never want to think that way as a coach. Everything's correctable with either scheme changes or personnel changes. You want to believe there's an answer in there somewhere, and just to tell the players, well, you got to play harder. That ain't the answer. It is what it is. Ain't the answer. That's bad coaching and bad thinking, as far as I'm concerned.
mhm. Yeah, I would say that some issues are more correctable than others. Then,
Well, yeah, but the issues are everywhere. So, but you're right. I'm sure there are some that are more correctable than others, but the issues are everywhere.
All right, let's go back. And all right, here's one. This is interesting. Why are they not using Walker as the speed guy to take the top off the defense? This is an interesting.
Yeah, and you know more about him than I do, but this I do know is they're not getting much out of the perimeter in terms of explosives. And I would go to the next plan on that. At least put him in part time if he creates a good matchup and gives you another chance for a big play. Uh,
So I think I think they are working to get him to the point where they think he can help. Um, I think that there has been um, I, I I think that there is a gap between his where he is, his physical ability, and where they think he is as far as his his readiness. So his physical ability and what they think his readiness is are two different things. Now, you know, yeah, I think once you get to a point where the physical ability of the guys that you're playing is not translating to making a difference, well, I think you get to a point where you might as well give them a shot, right? If the physical ability of the guys that are on the field doesn't make a difference, then you know having a guy that runs a 4-3, you might want to get to a point where you have a 15 or so plays where you just run a guy who has 4-3. You have
see
15
what happens, right? See what happens.
where you just have a guy who runs 4-3, where you got 10 or 15 plays where you just tell him what to do. And it's like, okay, somebody where you have somebody, whether it's another receiver or a quarterback, it's like Antonio Brown, or I don't know. And Devin would say, well, you guys play with Jeremy Gallen, like he would tell Jeremy Gallen, hey, Gallen, this is what you do on this play.
Between him and Dilio, we got Gallen squared away. They would kind of like it. Yeah.
And he was a beast. So if there's an issue with all the motions, if you feel like that is a limiting factor compared to another receiver, and those other receivers aren't making a difference in a way that is affecting the bottom line. 6 points, and they scored 6 points through basically 55 minutes of this game and had 3 turnovers. And these dudes were not respecting you at all.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he can command a modicum of respect because he's 6'3" and can run a 4.3. Is there something that can be devised to get him on the field? I saw him get some snaps in this last game. So clearly they are working on some things. Clearly some days are being stacked in practice for Marion Walker. He had moved to defense. He had transferred. Some things had changed on offense in the interim. They had, it's not the same offense as when he left. They do a lot more with motion and shifting and all that. So there was an adjustment. So, I grant that there was an adjustment in moving back to receiver. But Al, I think they're to the point now with the lack of separation that they're getting at that position that they're at a point now where they got to figure something out with him.
Yeah,
They got to figure out a way where how he can help them.
yeah, I would agree. And if he brings those type of numbers to the table, you probably ought to test it just to find out because there's just not enough explosive plays, and particularly out there. So there's probably a point where you're going to see him out there.
Yeah, and look, and there's no guarantee. This is the same thing. The same logic applies as with Orji. There's no guarantee that he helps.
No,
There's
there
no
is
guarantee.
not.
But
There
when
is
you
not.
have 6'3", 4'3" on the bench, you just
Right.
got you just got to see.
Yeah, you don't want to. At this point, you don't want to stand pat, Sam. That's the thing. You stand pat, you get more of the same. So
Yeah,
you got to start developing some guys that can put some points on the board.
yeah, you just got to see. All right. Next question. Let's go to uh, this next one. You'll like this one. ZH says, Al, my girlfriend was watching the film study with me and asked, why can't I be that gorgeous?
Well, I got something. I got Kavorka. I don't know what it is. I didn't ask for it, but it is that. In that case, it is what it is.
All right. Here's another one. Adam
I'm going to
Shepard.
fire a shot for his girlfriend. She has excellent taste.
Adam Jefferson says, "Is that really the best 5-0 lineman? If so, it'll be a long year. Did Gentry get hurt? I just thought Gentry got beat. But I think I
Gentry
think
won the game, didn't he?
I think he went in the game as an
Yeah.
extra lineman. Did he go into the game as an extra lineman?
I think I saw him at right tackle for a few plays,
Really?
but
Okay.
not long. But he was in there for a little bit. But
Okay.
the thing about the line is you just got to understand that that's not something that happens overnight. When you got 5 new ones in there, it takes some time, and it's depth. It's baptism by fire when you're playing against a team like Texas, because they're going to expose your inexperience. But in time, if you believe that those 5 are the best you got, generally they will get better. You'll see some progress. If they're not as good as you hoped, there's only going to be a limited amount of progress. But you'll see there'll be a different offensive line in the 4th, 5th game of the season. That may not be enough to satisfy you, but that's the way it goes. That's the way that position is.
Speaking of Gentry, he said Max 77 wanted to know how did the old right tackle grade out. Talking about young Evan Link.
Yeah. See, I'm going to say this about Evan. I like Evan. I think he's going to be a good lineman, but he's getting tossed into a bad situation right now. When you're down that much, you got to throw at the end, and his grade just deteriorated. I mean, it was, he graded out lower than anybody I had, but he had the toughest task. Okay, particularly like I said, after the 43rd play of the game, it was all pass. They were not playing run at all. He had to pass protect without play action holding guys or whatever, and that's hard to do for a young lineman against big boy football team. So he struggled, but I think in time you're going to get a pretty good player there. I like him. I just think there's a lot of growing pains you're going to go with playing a kid like that.
But it gets to my point that I made earlier in the show. What do they have a better chance of being, an average running team or an average passing team? And it's my point entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a better chance of being an average running team now.
Yeah. I think Evan Link will be fine as long as the game stays in balance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? As long as he stays in balance, he'll have his glitches here and there because he's young. But I think he'll be fine if the game stays in balance. But as soon as it gets out of balance, it gets out of whack, all those guys get exposed. So that's just the way football is.
All right. Get back to the questions for Borges, as good ones continue to come through. Here is another one. It's Tyler Zollers. Sam Allen, your opinions as Lightbox that tell you that we need to reopen online position competition, get some other players added playing time.
I think that everybody should be evaluated, and that could be the case. Everybody's job, no one has their job for sure when you're not playing well. The O line or any other position is everybody is assessed based on what they bring to the table. The one thing I learned from a wise man way back in the early 80s, John Ralston, former coach at Stanford and Denver Broncos, told me if you're going to coach, you better be a results oriented manager. A results oriented manager. I'm not interested in potential, I'm interested in performance. So, if for some reason somebody's not playing up to standard and there's a consistency to it, everybody's job's on the line at this point.
All right. On to the next one. So Adam Shepardson, he said, hey, Bredesen next to Orji is a non-threat. Antoine Johnson followed up. He said, of course, Orji is a non-threat when you got him running the same three obvious student body right, student body left. But do you agree with that? Orji next to Bredesen is a non-threat?
Well, I think if you did it every play, yeah. I don't think you don't want to do that because you got to have a threat to get for somebody to hand the ball off. But situationally, there may be times where that's okay. It was fine in that situation. They just didn't get it blocked. So would I consistently put him? No, I wouldn't do that because you got to have a guy that you could also hand the ball to or zone read and potentially hand the ball to off before you pull it. And Bredesen isn't that kind of guy. But there may be instances where Bredesen's useful. So to say that's a blanket statement, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I think generally speaking, it's probably pretty accurate.
I mean, let's just assess for a second off the top of your head the plays you had the QB power with Alex in the game, and then there was the power read. Mm-hmm. These are the plays that I can remember the two. The QB power was blown up because of a missed block by the guard. That should have been a good play. The power read, you wind up having the back one-on-one with the safety, and the back didn't win.
Yeah, gained 3 yards. Yep.
He gained 3 yards. The play got what you wanted. I mean, these plays should have. Al, I mean.
Well, the thing in both instances, one is just purely lack of execution. The other one is you might have been better suited for a different back to run the power read. In that Khalil is such a good inside runner. I mean, he pounds the ball as well as anybody. But maybe a power read where he's got to run the ball outside, make cuts in the perimeter and all that. That might be better for Donovan. I don't know, or somebody else. That's something you can look at and personnel that. But you want to believe any of your backs can win in the open field. But sometimes some backs are better suited for it. So those are the little things when, as a coach, when you scheme it up, just you got to really be meticulous about who is in the game when you run the play. It's the X's and O's, not the Jimmys and Joes. It's the Jimmys and Joes, not the X's and O's. So you got to know that who's carrying that ball, what are the potential things that can happen when he does, and who is he best suited to deal with those things.
Al, that is one of the questions. I can't find it, but someone said, would you pare down the playbook? Do you think
why the hell would you do that? We just start over again? You lose every game. No, you want to take what you do in your playbook and tap what your personnel can do the best. So I'm not sure what that's about, but systematically they're fine. They just got to get the right people in the right places to do what can maximize their offense. If it means quarterback changes, if it means line changes, whatever, you do what you got to do.
All right. Here's a question. It's kind of related to this from David Best. Kind of related to Jaden Davis. What are the critical steps for getting a freshman quarterback ready for game action?
Well, that's tough now sometimes because jumping into the arena, and particularly one like when you're playing Texas, is truly baptism by fire. But what you do with a freshman quarterback is you kind of scale back some of the intricacies of the offense. So he'll play fast and be less confused because he's going to get looks that he never saw in high school. He's going to get coverage that he never saw in high school. He's going to get guys who can run him down after he pulls the ball on zone reads, for example, that he never saw in high school. So that it's going to be some growing pains with that. So the best thing to do is get him out of the paralysis through analysis as much as you possibly can by streamlining what you're doing offensively and getting him into a comfort zone where he doesn't have to do a lot of thinking. And then as he grows, you can expand the playbook more and more.
Yeah. Someone said, when will the film studies be on the app? Film studies go up on Wednesday mornings. First thing Wednesday mornings, by the way. Film studies, first thing Wednesday mornings on the Autograph app, both the offensive and defensive film studies. If you don't have the Autograph app, I will put the QR code on the screen here shortly for you to be able to download it. I'll put the link as well for you to be able to download it, so you'll be able to get it. And it is free. It is free. Another question or two here. We got to get out of here because I got to get over to Vance Bedford. We got
and he don't like it when I hold him up, Sammy. He really gets impatient.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, old Vance said, hey, it's time to get started with the defensive film study. David Harris says, why not play Jaden Davis and get growing pains out of the way? He has much higher potential than Warren. Why wouldn't you just throw the freshman in the fire, Al Borges?
Well, you could. I mean, I've done that before. I did that several years back when I was at Boise State. The problem with that, Sam, is it paid off the next year. But when I first year at Boise State, we did that. We got 4 games, almost the same thing. We had played 3 or 4 games. I said, hell with it. These guys just, I'm being results oriented. I'm not getting results. So I put the freshman in, and he went 3-8, and got beat up and everything else. But the next year, we went 13-2. And we would have never gone 13-2 had not we thrown him in. Now, I don't think that you got to go 3-8. Now, I think Michigan had better personnel than we did, but there are going to be some deals with a freshman in there, and for all the reasons that I just mentioned on the last question, there are going to be some deals, and he doesn't have at this point anyway a great running game to support his play, so it's a bit of a dice roll. But again, a lot of it's the attitude of the kid. Does the kid want to do it? Are you in a situation where you feel you must do it? These are all the reasons you get paid all that money.
Yeah. So we'll close out this way, Al, going into this game against Arkansas State. I don't know that they are going to play Alex anymore. They may not. They may use him in the same vein that they've used him the first 2 games, which is a play here, a play there, short yardage scenarios. But for the sake of argument, let's say they decided that they wanted to give him some more run. What would be a mix? What would be a mix in which you?
Great question. Great question.
Do you have to go wholesale? Okay, you get the game, or could there be a mix where you could use both? How could you do it as a coach or / coordinator?
Personally, just how I would do it. This doesn't make this right now. Just I want to be clear of that. I would just play him. I would say, this is our goal. We're going to play Orji. If we decided we're going to play Orji. Again, let's assume that. And he's going to throw between 18 and 22 passes right in there. Okay, no more than that, maybe less. We are going to design at least half to 3/4 of our run game where he either gets the ball or he could pull the ball, which means most of the time in the pulls, he's going to end up handing the ball off. Okay. So that means the halfback. Then the other third or whatever it is, maybe half, you're working your halfbacks, right? And you're play action passing off those looks because you're going to get loaded boxes now. There's no question about it. You know what you're dealing with now. When you put it, the defense is going to change a little bit on how they play. Okay. But again, I'd run him with the zone reads, the bluff runs, the duo reads, the quarterback horn plays, or the pin and pulls, whatever you call them, and give him the opportunity to run some plus runs. We're going to run him 12 to 15 times, maybe more. We're going to pass him 18 to 22 times and hopefully stay out of third downs as much as we possibly can. And even
So
in
you
those down and distances, even those make them respect the quarterback run.
so you wouldn't play one quarter, one the other quarter. You would just
Nope.
play.
Nope. I might do what they did a year or 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago when they played McNamara one game, and then didn't they play JJ the next game, or was it vice versa? I think it was
They played.
yeah,
It wasn't. They gave one to start one game, the other to start the next game. But they played them both. They played them both in each game. They gave
yeah,
them like I think they gave one the first half and the other the second half. I think
yeah,
they gave them both halves.
yeah. The
They all
point
starts.
the point is, Sam, you're never going to find out whether Orji can play unless you can get him into rhythm. And I don't mean just passing. I mean doing all the things that are Orji oriented. Okay. So he can get in there and run a bunch of plays back to back and then run a series and then see how he jibes with the rest of the team. You're never going to really know if he should be the starting quarterback because you can always use him in spot duty now. He's already done that, right? But you'll never know if he can be the quarterback until he plays a game or at least a half. So if that's your goal, if you're thinking you need to change a quarterback, I think he needs to play. Okay. So
Yeah. Well, I think we'll know if they don't do it in this game, they aren't going to do it. So
no,
because
probably this would you're right. This probably would be a pretty good game to try
yeah,
it. If you're going to do it, if you're not going to do it and just go with what you're going with, then go with it and count on better execution.
yeah,
Because that's what you're saying. You're saying, okay, if we're not going to make any changes at that position, we gotta find a way to execute better and produce more offense. Okay, and we think we have a future with what we're playing with, and we're going to go until we got. I mean, guys have done that and it's worked. So I'm not saying that that's not the thing to do, but there is a point where you're going to have to be again a results oriented manager and make a decision whether the team is going in the right direction offensively.
absolutely. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with Al Borges. Remember to check out the film study. The film study focused on the offense with Al Borges is going to be available exclusively on the Autograph app, which is Tom Brady's great app. You can download the Autograph app. It is a free app. It is available on Android and iOS. You can download it at your App Store, your Google App Store, your Apple Store. I'm going to give you your download, your QR code available on your screen right here. So you can download it right there, right now on your screen. For those of you who are watching us, for those of you who are listening via podcast, I'm going to make it very easy for you by giving you the link. It is link.ag.fan/Sam Webb. Again, that's link.ag.fan/Sam Webb. I'm going to put that in the comments. I'm going to put that in the description. That way, you can just type that link in and download it that way, and you can get the Autograph app for free. And you can download it. It offers you not just access to the film studies with Al Borges and, of course, Vance Bedford, but all of your other great fan offerings. Every Michigan podcast that you like to listen to, other Michigan videos you like to watch, Michigan blogs you like to read. And the great thing about it is as you consume these fan offerings, you accrue points, and then you can redeem these points for great rewards. That is this great, loyal sort of fan offering that Tom Brady came up with. So, again, it's this great idea that a Michigan guy would come up with. So, enjoy Autograph, enjoy the film studies. They're going to go up Wednesday morning. So, enjoy the Autograph app. And by the way, don't forget, we're going to be breaking down the Buckeyes in the bye weeks. So, we need you to help us with the Buckeye breakdowns by helping us fund the Buckeye film studies. Be sure to click that PayPal link in the description in the comment section so we can pay Gorgeous Borges, pay Vance Bedford, to break down those Buckeyes. Don't forget to do that as well. And until next time, thanks for watching another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown, focused on the offense with gorgeous Al Borges. We'll see you next time.
Go blue.